Thank you for joining us today to talk about the Coalition to Back Black Business, a multi-year initiative to support Black small businesses um, as they recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and chart a path forward. My name is Brody Fontenot, and I'm the CEO of Fontenot Strategic Consulting and also the program manager of the Coalition. In its second year, the Coalition has now distributed nearly 1,100 grants to Black small businesses and provided coaching and mentorship support through the Eureka coaching platform. Our distinguished panel will discuss the impact of the coalition, the importance of companies supporting the small business community, insights regarding what small businesses need to be successful, and finally, how you can help strengthen the Black small business community. I'd like to introduce our panel members today. Charles DeBow, the Executive Director, the National Black Chamber of Commerce, one of our founding coalition members. Laura Gallagher, President, AIG Foundation, and Global Head, Corporate Citizenship at AIG, and also one of the coalition's founding members. And finally, Kim Roxy, founder, Lamique Beauty, and one of the winners of the coalition's first enhancement grants. So Charles, I'd like to start with you if I could. How has the landscape changed for Black-owned businesses over the past 18 months, and what impacts have efforts like the coalition had on Black businesses?
There was a total unpredictable or unbelievable occurrence that the pandemic brought about when there was forced legal closure of the majority of businesses globally, but particularly in the United States and in our constituency, there were almost every business that was not in a total dependent service mode. So if you weren't a hospital, a grocery store, maybe even a gas station, you were forced to close. Even some of the early ones that could restart their business or resume their business in construction, and people that they were working apart doing different things like that. So number one, that was the first thing. You had to close. You didn't have a choice, regardless of the state or disposition of your business. Now, on the other hand, there were those businesses that were principally engaged in e-commerce, or the majority of their transactions and the way their business occurred was online and conducting. Those types of businesses were even a bit lesser impacted, but they were by far impacted. The immediate reaction to that was, for us, who could come back from that? Who was able to rebound? And so you had an initial almost knee-jerk reaction to say, well, who's left? Who's out there? And in our outreach and our interaction, we found it very, very difficult to discern who's still open for business or who's actually closed that business and gone on. And so we used a study by the University of California that recorded at least 41%, but our personal experiences said the numbers were much higher of those that were able to reopen. And so we're saying the numbers between 40 and 60% of those that did not rebound. And there's not just the pandemic itself, but it is the resources, the access to capital, or the regimen of which they had to operate in to come back. So for example, a restaurant being able to open at 25% or 50% as we dealt with the pandemic and the what it would be like to operate your business within that. And it took 10, 12, 18 months as this process evolved. And so there was a number that just had to change their business model, and maybe the business itself that was as articles of incorporation or the registered business name. A lot of those went away, but the entrepreneurs did live on. And that's kind of like where we find ourselves today, and what may be commonly referred to as the pivot, how we respond and how we react.
Thanks, Charles. I appreciate that. And, Kim, I would love to bring you into this conversation. again, you did receive, one of the CBB grants. You also received one of the enhancement grants. And, Charles just talked a lot about the transition that a lot of businesses had to make. How has the CBB program either helped you make the pivot or how are you doing things now?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today, Brody. I know what Charles is talking about because, I lived it in my business. But the CBB grant, the first one was like a life jacket, right? It was sort of like this, here's the raft, like you can make it a little further. It just kind of also reminded you that there is other people that are out there that recognize the importance of your business and they want to see you survive. And then with the enhancement grant, what happened is, that basically was saying like, you got the life jacket. Now it's like, we're going to bring you to shore. Like we can actually help like with the safety of it. When I got the enhancement grant, I was literally at a point of my business of being able to either be able to launch in the largest beauty specialty retailer in the country, fulfilling a purchase order. And when that grant came in, that helped me to buy all of the materials that I needed to fulfill that purchase order. And now that made me the first Black-owned clean beauty brand to launch on Ulta.com with Lamique Beauty. And so, you never know what the setup is happening. So the first one was just sort of like this life jacket. And then that second one was really like, you are going to survive. You're actually going to thrive. And this is kind of like that assurance there.
Thank you, Kim. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And congratulations. Laura, I'd love to bring you in here too. And CBB obviously has, a mission. And how, can you explain sort of how the AIG Foundation looks to provide assistance and the help of your, consumers, your employees, sort of similar with that mission of CBBB?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me. It's really a pleasure and a privilege to be here to represent so many companies who took part in supporting this coalition. AIG has a really long history of giving back to the communities where we work, live, and serve our customers. And our foundation's mission is to make strategic grants to organizations that are driving meaningful and measurable change in society in support of really a more sustainable, inclusive, equitable, and secure world. And I want to point out that AIG actually just reestablished its foundation in the year of the first grants that went to the coalition to back Black businesses. And at AIG, we have a culture of belonging, right? We belong to our company, we belong to our communities, other affinity groups. And the AIG Foundation Board really views all of our potential grants through a strong diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. And as the board really thought about ways that the foundation can make a positive impact, particularly as we reopened it during the year of the pandemic, small businesses really emerged as a network that our board was really deeply committed to supporting. It came up in the first discussions with the individual board members and continued as a thread all the way through the grant making decision process. And I think this contribution is meaningful not only to the foundation, but also to our employees who want to know how the company is making commitments and taking action to back up what we're saying about our culture of belonging, and not just, within our own company, but within our communities.
Great. And so again, that's really sort of hitting not only the business part, but really your employees and what they're interested in as well. Thank you for that. This is a question for Kim and Charles, because again, you both brought this up a little bit. What do small businesses need now? Both of you talked about a pivot, and Kim, you talked a bit about sort of how you're really growing your business now. What do you think small businesses now, particularly Black-owned small businesses now, need to be successful right now, sort of in this new world? And maybe Kim, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think community is really important. And when I got the first grant, I also got the coaching from Eureka. And that was particularly helpful because coaching can kind of be like therapy too, right? And as a small business owner in a pandemic, you need both of them. You need some coaching and some therapy, okay? And so it was helpful for that. And then also the other founders, the other entrepreneurs that was in the group, we've sort of kept in touch and supported each other through social media and all of that, and let each other know about different opportunities and all of that. So community is really important. And then also the currency, right? The actual funding is so important. I'm telling you that, my products are, Lamique is an amazing product line of vegan, clean makeup products, but just because of funding, I almost was not able to take advantage of such a life-changing sort of opportunity for my company. And so that should not be the hindrance for me. If I have an amazing brand, if I have an amazing company, I should have access to capital. And so I think that, this sort of funding and this sort of capital plus community, I think is the magic potion to a lot of our Black businesses getting that lift up and that elevation that they need, because we can compete in the marketplace.
Yeah, thank you. Charles, how do your thoughts on this as well?
Kim and both Laura really are touching on the real core of what we're dealing with. There is just a tremendous almost like a PTSD kind of thing of what have we been through on all sides. And if you get those elements in the room and we start talking about, like, Kim, you really struck me in my heart when you talked about, it's one thing about getting a life vest. It's another thing about the boat or the rope or whatever pulling you in, and not only pulling you in, but drying you off, setting you up, getting you going, being concerned and compassionate and empathetic to your disposition and what you need. First of all, yes, the dialogue is extremely important. And one of the things that the Coalition to Back Black Business really did that was intuitive and is being replicated throughout the space, the desire or thought behind philanthropy, but it isn't so much philanthropy as much as it can support and enhance your organization. And I'm really speaking from the Fortune 500 perspective and the level and recognition of the amount of productivity that you can gain with engagement, with inclusion. And it isn't necessarily just diversity as much as it is dialogue amongst who could be in your community. So that translates down all the way ultimately to your end user, your client, your customers, your consumers. The main thing though that we're really excited about is this new recognition of the mental disposition. The mentoring touches on it and it gets to it, but there was 2-3 years ago, you can look at all the mentoring groups and they would go like, nah, people didn't, they had to work to get engagement, to get dialogue, get somebody to sit down with them and engage them. And one of the things in reviewing some of the applicants with the CBB grants was the comments about the mentoring experience. And it was like a revelation. It was a new thing and it was transcendent. It went from top to bottom. We did a open kind of town hall dialogue on how to pitch your business. And there was so much engagement about what are you guys looking for? Whether it's a grant or whether it is a buyer-supplier relationship, or whether it's just from a consumer pitch to reach through a community to reach other people. And that mentality part of it about being confident or knowing or believing, and the ethological appeal. Does it impact a community? Is that your mission? Is that something about the personification of that business through its leadership? And that's what I really would salute Kim. I've known Kim for many years, but I have seen the struggle. I have seen the challenges. I know when you were standing alone out here making it, as an entrepreneur, but really kind of just having to go for what you know, as you can get it anywhere in the universe for it. And you've persevered in this moment now where you're probably the most recognized product or entity or business. But most importantly, if you talk to other people around, you're recognized almost as if you stand as a chamber of commerce unto yourself because of the networking, because of making yourself available, because your heart is open and your mind is open, that you will dialogue with anybody in any type of business or any organization trying to help businesses, and you've been there. And I believe God is rewarding you, but most importantly, you earned this. You did this. You didn't. No, there's no gifts out here. You went, made yourself available for that window of opportunity. Some might call it luck, but you've got to be prepared. You've got to be willing to step through that window when that opportunity comes. And you've been there and you've done that. And so much respect and salute to you and to encouragement that you go on and become all that you aspire to be.
Laura, as a foundation, affiliate of a global insurer, pretty unique position, what is the connection to what you're trying to accomplish and help grow Black-owned businesses sort of through your affiliation with CBBB?
Well, AIG is certainly a global insurer, but I also like to think of AIG as an ally. And as an ally, we're committed to managing risk and preparing for what's next on our corporate side, right? We also have an AIG brand called Western World, which is the one that really provides the insurance the insurance platform to small businesses. And as we translate that thread over to the foundation, and just as AIG helps our clients prepare for respond to, withstand, and recover from uncertainty, we do the same thing on the foundation side through our grants, particularly as we think about how to support community resilience. And the foundation grant to the Coalition to Black-backed Businesses, we feel did exactly that. We had opportunities to contribute to our own communities where, I really think that small businesses are the heartbeat of our communities. And we even had a board leader who also is one of our senior leaders in the company serve as a judge for the enhancement grant. So it gave us an opportunity to get involved in unique ways. And essentially, we want to help create communities and support communities so that they do thrive. We don't want our communities just to survive. And we recognize that small businesses, particularly Black-owned small businesses, really do create that vitality and provide the services needed in order for communities to flourish.
Great. Oh, that's great. And, great answers to all those questions. I really appreciate it. Last question, and this is a lightning round question. And maybe Kim, I'll start with you. What's the one thing you would recommend to help strengthen Black-owned small business today?
Brody, that's so simple for me. Keep the same energy that you had post George Floyd in the pandemic for Black-owned businesses. Keep that same energy. I think that, really the, in the moment, what you felt, what you knew, what you understood, what you learned, we see the difference it can make. So keep the same energy. Don't fall off for us. Keep the same energy.
All right, Kim, keep the same energy. Laura, what would you say?
Well, of course, I recommend, I work for an insurance company, so I recommend having insurance, right? But I also recommend keeping that network going because, one of the things, and I know that there's a lot of CSR professionals who will be attending this session. And, as a CSR professional, I wanted to say to them specifically in the room, it was the network that made this very appealing to AIG Foundation for consideration. There are a lot of other funders, and this is supporting something that we certainly could not have done by ourselves.
That's great. And Charles?
The great gains. So, out of every, there's this mentality about never let a good crisis go to waste. Well, that's kind of like what you do to make something out of what we had no control over. And that community and that dialogue and forcing forcing action to be taken for survival. But in that, we're seeing thriving happening. So coming to the light, moving forward, staying communicative, being open to help. That would be it. I know we're short on time. I'm long-winded. Thank you so
Again,
much.
well, again, I want to thank all our panel members today, Kim Roxy, Laura Gallagher, and Charles DeBow, and Brody Fontenot, again, with the Coalition Back Black Business. If you're interested in working with us, please feel free to reach out to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Thank you again, and have a great rest of the conference.